We're going to try.
Let's chat about lives with Nick and Dana.
Yes, we are back. At least we think we're back. We've missed it, but we had a few technical glitches we needed to figure out, and we hope we did. And something happened that we wanted to talk about for other parents who might be in similar situations, because we had some ideas that arose from this unexpected event. So let's set up the event, Nick, by telling the story of what you did and where you were.
I went to Washington, D.C.
Why did you choose Washington, D.C.?
I like history. I'm a history buff.
You're a history buff and you like history. Okay, who did you go with?
A person called Dad.
Okay, so you went with your dad. And what did you see in Washington, D.C.?
I saw the White House,
Okay, the White House,
the Air and Space Museum,
the Air and Space Museum.
Star Trek.
Oh, what about Star Trek?
The exhibit.
There was an exhibit in the Air and Space Museum for Star Trek?
Yeah.
Was it cool?
Yeah.
Okay, what else?
And then I went to the war memorials.
You went to the war memorials?
Yes.
Okay, did you know that your grandfather was in the Korean War? Did you know that?
Just now.
You really? Okay, well, I have pictures of him in a photo album from when he was in the war. I can show you pictures if you want.
Yay.
Okay. Did you visit anything else while you were in Washington, D.C.?
I went to Abraham Lincoln's house.
Was that cool?
Yes.
Do you just get to see the outside?
Yes. I saw the theater when he was killed at.
Oh, so you saw his house and you went into the theater?
Not in the theater.
Oh, the outside.
The outside where he was shot.
Okay, all right. By who?
John Wilkes Booth.
Right.
He was assassinated. He's the one who killed him, but not all the way, 2 inches away from the ear.
Oh, right. You were telling me about that. I don't think I knew that. That he didn't get killed right away, that he went home and then he got killed after, right? He died after?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So you saw did you see anything else that you remember that was special or interesting?
I was standing near Martin Luther King to know when he stood.
Where he stood when he did what?
That I have a dream.
When he gave his I Have a Dream. So you were in the, what's it called? Is it the National Mall? Like that whole big area with water?
Yes.
And okay. All right. Well, that sounds really cool. So let's take us to the day of the event.
Okay.
So where were you headed with Dad?
To a subway.
You were headed to the subway, and I'm going to let you tell us what happened.
I was there, then I just stood there, and then a woman.
Okay, wait, back up. You and Dad are headed to the subway.
Yes.
Okay, are you standing next to each other like this?
No.
How are you walking?
Mine next to him, but a little behind.
A little behind. So you're not doing the trick you and I do where we like lock arms?
Yeah.
No, you weren't doing that. Okay, so you were standing, you were just a little behind him, and was the train already there? Was it there when you were walking towards it?
Yes.
Okay, so it's there, and what happened now? We'll take small bites so we can get the picture of it.
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
The door closes.
Wait, so the doors are opened and people are getting in?
Yeah.
Is it crowded on the platform?
Not too much.
Not too much, but there's some other people?
Yeah.
Okay, so the doors opened and you're walking just a little bit behind Dad.
Yeah.
Towards the door. So what happened next in little bites?
I was waiting for him to talk to me.
For Dad to talk to you? I wasn't there, so I don't know what happened. So you and Dad are walking towards the open doors.
Yes.
And just what happened next? You don't have to be fancy. Just use the words to say what happened next.
Then the door closes and it went.
So, okay. So I'm not understanding. You and Dad are walking. The door closes and it left. So did you both wait for the next train?
I did.
Oh, where was Dad?
already on the train and I was waving at him, and he didn't even see me or look at me.
So, if I understand this correctly, and I know I do, you and Dad are walking to the train.
Yes.
He gets on,
Yes.
and before you have a chance to get on, the doors close.
Yes.
And it pulls away.
Yes.
So as the doors are closing and it's starting to pull away, what's going on in your head?
I think I knew that kind of happened.
What has happened?
Like I had done before.
What you've done what before when you were younger?
Gained lost.
So you were standing there on the platform in Washington D.C. Dad's on a train that's pulling away. So what I would think is grab your cell phone and call him.
But he had my phone.
So you didn't have your cell phone.
Yeah.
Okay. So what happened next?
Then the local from the Aerospace Museum came up to me.
Someone who worked at the Aerospace Museum came up to you and said,
"Do you need help?"
Okay. So what happened? What did you say?
Then I said, "Yes, I do need help."
And so what happened next?
And then we were waiting for another train, and it was going to be hard to stop. So me and Hall went onto the train,
Mm-hmm.
and she asked me to go on the train with her. So I did. And then we stopped at the other platform, and then we went the escalator, and then I gave her my dad's phone number, and I knew by heart, and I did, and then Dad went back on the other train, and then after that he showed up.
Okay. So we're going to go back into the details of what happened, but were you ever panicked or afraid?
No, I'm
Okay.
actually not.
So that would be our number one probably tip is don't panic because it's hard to make good decisions when you're panicking, right?
Yes.
Okay. So the way I understand it is you and Dad are heading for those doors. Somehow he gets on. From his point of view, he was looking for a seat for both of you,
Yeah.
but then he turns around and you're not there.
Yeah.
From your perspective, you're still on a platform waving at Dad
Yeah.
and he's taking off.
Yes.
Okay. So this woman helps you. You guys call Dad. Dad has to, you were going in a different direction, actually towards a rough end of town, right? And
Yeah.
and Dad was headed back towards the hotel.
Yeah.
So I thought you had gotten on the next train and then needed help. I didn't realize that you had talked to the woman when you were still on the platform. So that's news to me.
Yeah.
So this happens and you get back together and you and Dad are together. And there were a couple things, by the way, we'll talk about this in a minute, is why they waited 2 weeks to tell Mom, because they waited 2 weeks to tell Mom. But anyway, so don't panic. And then one of the lessons you learn is to always carry what when you're traveling?
Your phone.
Always, every single time.
Yeah,
Never not
nice.
have your phone. For
Yeah.
two reasons. One, because we can track you. Because
Yeah.
you've got an iPhone and we've got the tracking on there.
Yes.
Second thing is, then you could have called Dad,
Yeah.
right? So that would have been really a great thing.
Yeah.
All right. So that wasn't anyone's fault, but that hadn't happened before. So the other thing we were thinking about is the critical importance of knowing the telephone number of either the person you're with or your home number or your mother's phone. Because if he had called me, I would have panicked for sure, but
Yeah.
I could have at least called his dad. But so when Nick was in elementary school, we taught him phone numbers using songs and we would practice all the time. And if you had asked me now, because he has his iPhone, I never dial in numbers. I know everyone's, well, actually, I don't think I know your and Patrick's number right now, but don't tell me now because we don't need everybody knowing your number. But because I just pushed Patrick or I just pushed Nick. So I am so proud of Nick that he knew by heart his dad's number, because how often do you actually type in a number, right? You're usually just pushing the name or the picture, right? So how important it is for kids of all ages to know the cell phone number. And then the last piece is knowing to ask for help, right?
Yeah.
And so if Nick had said no, he didn't need help, he could have been dropped off in some rough part of the city. Now, what we think probably would have happened then is he might have gotten help there, most likely would have ended up in a police station somewhere. But like, as a mom, terrifying. This was the best of all possible worlds, because not only was he safe and home before I heard the story, but it was really powerful in the lessons that Nick learned, and his dad as well, in terms of how to be a good travel partner, right? Because we don't want this to happen again. But you will have your phone next time, and then it won't be a big deal. And Nick's 25, right? So it's even a different issue if you've got younger kids and they get lost or you get separated in a big crowd. And so Nick said he didn't panic because it had happened before. It had happened before. And so I want to share a couple of the different things that we've learned over the years, because I think it can be the difference between panicking and not panicking. So one thing that we learned is that if you are going somewhere like an amusement park or somewhere with a group of adults, and in this case, it was a group of family members, that if someone is kind of walking beside, or Nick was young, he was probably elementary school, if they are teamed up with your loved one, then if they decide they're no longer teamed up, then they have to kind of pass the proverbial baton. They have to say, okay, I'm done holding and guarding Nick. He is now your responsibility. Because what happened is we were at Disneyland with family members, and one family member, which we're not going to name, was in charge of Nick, and that family member was done and distracted, and Nick wanders off, but the family member didn't say to us, oh guys, by the way, I'm not watching Nick anymore, you better watch him. And we just assumed so-and-so had him. And so that's something we learned, is we always from that point on would say, okay, I got him, oh, he's yours now, you're in charge. And we made sure somebody was always in charge, so that didn't happen again. The other thing is Nick, when he was younger, he'd like to hide from us, even as a trick. And so we were in a kind of the equivalent of a Target, but we were traveling. So we were on the road, and we were in a big, a big store with lots of clothing racks, the round ones. And he decided it would be really funny if he ducked in the middle and hid from us. And go ahead, Oliver. So he was hiding. And of course, we are looking around the store and panicking. But what we did in that moment is, and I say I panic, no one in the family seems to panic like me, is we had the doors guarded. So we went to the back exit and the front exit. So now we knew that he was in the store. He wasn't going to leave the store. And he came out. I think you heard me like freaking out or something, and he felt bad. And then the last time is Nick was really independent, and I had gone to walk the dogs of some neighbors who lived around the block, and Nick thought, oh, I'll just leave and catch up with mom and go meet her while she's walking these dogs. Only I had gone down the street and turned right, and he, not knowing exactly where he is going, went down the street and turned left. And that was a full-fledged neighbor search. And I mean, that was probably the scariest. It was getting dark. You were out there on your own. It was before you had a cell phone, right?
Yeah.
And I'm racing and running to cover my tracks, and I can't find him. I'm asking people in the park, and I'm getting the car. I'm driving around trying to go one block out and one block out. And I'm just about to lose it. I'm about to call the police. I'm freaking out. And all of a sudden, I'm driving down our street, and there comes Nick, kind of like too cool for school, walking around the corner. And I stopped the car, pulled over, stopped the car, and I just raced up to him. And I was like, oh my goodness. Well, Nick knew where he was the whole time. So he wasn't worried at all. He couldn't find me, so he decided he was just going to come home. But again, I didn't know where he was, and I didn't know if he'd gotten in someone's car. I didn't know what you had done. So that was probably the most terrifying for me. That only happened once. So the nice thing is that some of these things, they only happen once, right? Because we learn each time. But I think why we popped on today and wanted to share this is we got lucky every time. And we're good parents and we're attentive parents, but that happens often with people. And so the thing for younger kids we thought would be helpful is now they have tracking bracelets and ID bracelets, which could help with younger children who aren't verbal yet or who might not be able to share a telephone number, like an ID bracelet with tracking. And I don't know if there's anything else specifically that we've learned. It's just not panicking, I think, is probably the biggest thing for both sides, because in every instance, we got him back. But just knowing and being aware in travel situations that this kind of thing can happen, I think if you prepare, you have better results, right?
Yeah.
Do we sound like the worst parents? You keep getting lost, but a couple times it was just on you, right? Really? I mean, wandering out of the house without telling anyone where you're going. I mean, when I was walking the neighbor's dogs, that was on you. But, you know, Nick feels very independent. And so I think just knowing, and if you have, let's say, an elementary school student with Down syndrome or any other intellectual disability or developmental disability, just knowing that sometimes kids don't appreciate what might be a limitation, like not knowing where your parent is, and you think, I'm just going to go find them, right? Do you have any advice for parents who have younger kids and they are worried that they might get lost from them?
Have their phones on them?
Yeah, have their phones on them. Well, that is what we learned from this Washington experience. But here's the thing, is that now that it's over and Nick was safe, we've decided that that was the best thing that could have happened, because Nick did everything right. He tried to flag down his dad, but it was a busy train. He didn't panic. He used his words. He remembered the cell phone number, and he found someone that he felt he could trust. And so, and really she found him, right? Because she said that the train was going to a rougher area. And so she thought, I don't know that this young man would be going there. Something seems out of place. So she was very, very kind. And we're going to track her down because we know that she works at the Air and Space Museum. So we're going to try and track her down to say thank you once again. But that's it, right?
Yeah.
So that's it. I hope next time we have other fun topics to talk about and just general life catch-up things. Yeah. But we just thought we'd share that because, first of all, if it can happen to anyone. So if it's happened to you, please don't feel badly, because I think of us as very vigilant and it's happened to us. And then also you can prevent some of it by planning ahead and knowing that that does just sometimes happen. And it can happen at the beach or a pool, or, there are lots of places it can happen. But that's another reason to make sure that your loved one knows how to swim and, has some basic skills for surviving out there in the wild, wild world, right?
Yes.
All right. What, were you going to say something sassy? No.
I'm in the wild.
You're in the wild. Oh, my goodness.
Born to be wild.
You're born to be wild. You were born to be something, I'll tell you. All right. All right, we better cut it off now before we get wacky, Nick. And I mean that seriously, stop it. All right, so take good care, and we'll be back soon. Bye. I don't even know what to do with you. I can't even find the off button. All right, there we go. Take care.